right now what we are having is a frustration of young people who are equally educated now in the system. But when they go to the political platform, it seems that there's a disjoint between a revolutionary leader who has become a puppet of the same system that he was fighting. And the young people are now coming in and saying, no man, we need more. We cannot just be coming here as participants. We need to be, we cannot be referred to when presidents are talking the poorest of the poor, the indigent, the unbankable, the people are struggling. We're not struggling. Maybe what we need now is participation and ownership of the economy. Because I think that politics is a playfield of poor people. Real politics is economics. Those who determine the dollar, those who determine the rand, those who hold the money. Because every gunshot, someone is paying. Someone is in the bank while Africa is sitting in the graveyard burying each other. America and France and Britain are sitting in the banks calculating their spoils of war. And I think the young people are waking up.
Welcome to Wake Up Blaq. Educate and enlighten.
The BRICS idea has run ahead of the African idea. We are going to be dragged into another spectrum of international participation without national consolidation. So what we have in BRICS is Brazil, Russia, South Africa, India, and instead actually of the whole African continent coming up with its currency, then it won't be BRICS. Maybe it must be BRICS, because now Africa is in. Then it's Brazil, which is a continent. It's China, which is a continent. It's Russia and India, which are continents. Then here you pick up a country, South Africa. Don't you find something not gelling nicely there? Then we needed the consolidation, the A part, the BRICS part, the South African part, the S part must be an A rather than an S. Then
Isn't it what Gaddafi was trying to do?
And that's where we're going to go to today. And I think we need to start studying the different breed of politicians that are coming into the African space now. We had comrades who went to war to fight and etc. But I think their fighting lacked the economic, technological knowledge as to how are we going to take over the system, run it and manage it. And right now what we're having is a frustration of young people who are equally educated now in the system. But when they go to the political platform, it seems that there's a disjoint between a revolutionary leader who has become a puppet of the same system that he was fighting. And the young people are now coming in and saying, no man, we need more. We cannot just be coming here as participants. We need to be, we cannot be referred to when presidents are talking the poorest of the poor, the indigent, the unbankable, the people are struggling. We're not struggling. Maybe what we need now is participation and ownership of the economy. Because I think that politics is a playfield of poor people. Real politics is economics. Those who determine the dollar, those who determine the rand, those who hold the money. Because every gunshot, someone is paying. Someone is in the bank while Africa is sitting in the graveyard burying each other. America and France and Britain are sitting in the banks calculating their spoils of war. And I think the young people are waking up. Though I am passionate enough for the next 5 years to make sure that their passion must not just become emotional. We must change, must just change, remove everything, we don't care. You better care. Otherwise you make the same mistakes the liberation heroes did, to shoot everyone out of the offices and then get in the office and you sit there and all of a sudden you must run a bank now, you must run an insurance company, you must run an IT company. You saw what happened in post office here. You must now run an institution which you don't have a clue as to how is it working, how was it formed, where are we now, what are the future trends, so that you position the brand. So many of these parastatals, as you know very well in the Southern Africa,
they've collapsed.
They are collapsing. They are collapsing to an extent that they are being sold for a song to those who know what to do with them. So we don't want the young people again to be so frustrated with the old people to an extent that you are coming as young people from Harvard, from Vets, from wherever. You just want to come and flood the offices. You are going to do exactly what your old people have done unless you have a new agenda, a new questioning process and seeking for those new solutions in Africans. And unfortunately, you guys, your appetite for Western civilization will put you at the back foot of Western development because you don't own those things that you are desiring for. You might have to go back again and become beggars and consumers instead of manufacturers and developers. The China model is the best. Close yourselves, reverse re-engineering, play around new products. I like what you're doing. Play around new products, create new brands, stay with them, work with them and own those spaces. And slowly, petroleum, food, clothing, like Wobato, shoes, glasses, cars. And when you get to the issue of industrialization, Toyota, BMW, Mercedes-Benz are in South Africa. They've signed treaties with the government that no local car must be produced in the country because we are supplying you with the cars. Who will empower you, who will employ, who will what? So here we are in our own country. Up to now, we can't even come up with one South African car because the government is sleeping in bed with the multinational companies who are producing cars from the country but don't allow local people to produce local brands because these international brands will collapse. These are the policies that you young boys who have gone to school to study law. Go back and find out what kind of treaties are we entangled in with the Oppenheimers, with the Ruperts, with the Mercedes-Benz, with the Toyotas, the BMWs. Why are we stuck in manufacturing when actually we have the resources and the raw materials? So, and until we begin to have young people whose minds are keen enough not to be full of anger and temper and emotionalism, but well calibrated to know exactly the problem is here and put their finger on the pulse, your development might actually be slowed down. You might end up committing the same mistakes that we have made in our lives.
When you walked in here, I said you look presidential. You've got a beret. There was an interesting topic on Twitter the other day, and somebody was saying, it looks like all the revolutionaries are beret. They love their berets. And somebody came up and said, a beret is actually a French item. It's a French symbol. And then it created an interesting conversation. And I just wanted to hear, was this, and I love your style because you're always dressed in your own way, you know?
The color's crazy, you know?
But let me ask the question directly.
Yeah.
Would you run one day for president?
I would run for presidency, but I would rather be a technical kingmaker in terms of adding my value to the system itself and supporting those that are in power. Sometimes I think maybe we all want to become leaders in our own way, and we forget that even those who make leaders are as powerful as those who become leaders themselves. And leadership for me is not a complicated space. Leadership for me, my best model of leadership is Jacob Zuma. You don't need to know anything. You don't need to study anything. You don't need to go to school for anything. Just get the people who can do the job to surround you and let them implement. You give the vision and the dream. And I think on the African space, the presidential concept is dimming because of my appetite for the African national space.
The African unity, right?
Yes. So I could see myself maybe in the near future participating in that space. Okay. Had I it my way, I would be calling Lumumba, I would be calling Gogo Arikana Chihombori, I would be calling Malema, I would be calling other revolutionaries and luminaries around the continent, even in diaspora. And we begin to formulate for ourselves a liberation organization towards the liberation of the African continent. I would love to participate there because our what we call right now our nations, they are countries. Our real country is Africa. The real country we're talking about is Africa. It's one solid block of land that is just divided by many villages. And right now what we think is African politics, I want to call it village politics. Because the world is not at a village, the world is at a global space. And I think with this mindset of small little flags and a few little lines of poetry, we call a national anthem. And then each country stands up with a small little flag and say, we are this, we are Basotho, we are Uganda, we are Zimbabweans, we are stuff. And we cannot, as countries, fight continents. Maybe until that sinks deep, that China has got 1.4 billion people. China lands in Zimbabwe where there are 12 million people. 12 billion, 1.4 billion on 12 million. You can tell me the amount of abuse that will happen in those kind of spaces. Hence the financial muscle, the military power. Your economy is not even a GDP of a village in China. If you just look at it from that way. America can come anywhere in Niger, in Botswana, and etc. Botswana literally has 800,000 people. Now 264 million budget people walk into Botswana. Abuse is rife. You are insignificant. Your population and your budgets are insignificant. Cincinnati on its own, it's a whole economy of Botswana.
Tribalism, how do we get our people to understand that we are one?
Oh, that one's a beautiful one.
How do we get them to understand the Berlin conference divided us?
Let's make money, Sibu. next year. Me and you must go to Berlin.
Yeah.
I want us to have a podcast in the building where the treaty was signed. And we must just make a statement and declare that treaty null and void. Because there's a concept in African indigenous knowledge system, they call it Mabele Made. Mabele Made means the woman with a big breast, the long breast, so that it was so long that she could throw her breast across the river, and the children across the river could drink, and those across the river also could drink. It's an idiom. Because while we were coming from Embo, from Central Africa, and from Tanganyika, and from Uganda, on the various movements, women would get pregnant along the way, and some wouldn't be able to cross the river, so they will remain there. So the concept of Mabele Made says, those that are across the river, and those that have remained on the side of the river, you are breastfeeding from the same person, basically. So if you are looking at Chitikulus that are in Angola and in Congo, the Mutimukulus that are in South Africa, it's one tribe, basically. It's one people. All of them are dark. If you have seen the Bunganis, Bongelengele, same thing. Of late, we're beginning to see the Malawian Zulus doing their rituals, singing exactly the same as they do in KwaZulu-Natal, as they do in Zambia. And the South Africans cannot even begin to say Mozambicans and Mashangani, because who are the Kumalos, and the Tetwas, they're actually the kings of Mozambique, who are actually Zulu in, through, and through. The whole concept of Tsonga in Soshangana, Lobengula, Shaka, Mzilikazi, and etc. just tells you the Nguni, Angoni, Angoni. I'm living away from wickedness. Angoni, Angoni. It's actually Nguni concept flashes through, and then the Shona, the Karangas become a bridge between Central and Tanganyika, and then the Bantu tribes get into Abyssinia, into Soha, connecting with Niger on the top side. So, but if you look carefully at our totemic, as we said in the first program with Panuel, if you look at our totemic connections as Africans, you would find actually that these totems are much superior to our surnames, because totems are deeper in terms of our identity than our names and surnames are. So if you are a Sibanda, then you are a Banda, then you are a Tau, then you are Mtaung, then you are Mungonyama, then you are Shumba, then you want, so that's the lion, has the lion tribe, and you go over, and then you cannot even fail as a Bible to say the lion of the tribe of Judah. Maybe actually Jesus was a Mtaung himself, according to the scripture. Then you begin to notice that if a Sibanda in South Africa is killing a Shumba from Zimbabwe, and the Shumba in Zimbabwe is swearing at a Banda from Malawi, and the Banda at Malawi cannot understand the Mngonyama from Kakosa, and yet your totem actually says you all come from the same root, the Ziva, the Mlambos, Bokamanzi, Bokamnisi, and you fail to see the connectivity of our totemic connectivity, then I can't help you, young people. You need to study, then the study of self is far much more superior to the study of books and everything else. Because when you know who you are, where you're coming from, and what you're connected to, you may just find that it's not just about melanin and color, but actually intrinsically by blood. 3, 5, 6, 7 generations, we actually one people. And for South Africa in particular, I'll make it clear, for South Africa in particular, it's a crime of the highest sort to look at anyone. Listen to the song of Yuma Sekela. Etc. Because 60% of Johannesburg is migrant labor. Migrant labor. And we say so statistically and honestly. You cannot tell me that 2 generations later, these fathers came here in 1940s, 1950s, and 60s. Some of them are still alive. You have already forgotten that your father is from Malawi. You have Makura here, you have Ray Piri here, you have Masekela here, you have Dorothy Masuka here, you have Maponga here, you have Piri here, Ray Piri. I'm just mentioning but a few.
My great grandfather, the 5th. So my father's father, they originate from Swaziland.
There you go.
That's what I've just found out recently.
And for you to look at South Africa as superior to the Swazi, are you not undermining your own grandmother? And you get to the Swazi, you find that Swazis were actually coming from the upper Mozambican side. As they walked in, found the Magagulas there, and etc., the Jamenis then ran the country, and it's another history for conversation. But we need a more formal Afro-based academic program that then does not celebrate colonial literature with all its fanciness, but a simple piece of work that will say, "Zituthe wena, ungubani." So I go on my mother's side, I am a Sibanda. On my grandfather's side, I'm a Sibanda, I'm a Shumba, I'm a Mtaung, I'm a what. That's my mother's father. Then I go on my grandmother's side, she's a Ziva, she's a Mbezi, she's of the water, she's Manzi, and etc. Then she's Venda. Then I go on my grandmother on my father's side, she's Tsonga, she's a Tembe, Bombonambi, the Zebras, Bodube, Mumanjenjenj. I go on my grandfather on my father's side, he's a Shoko, he's a Mkanya, he's a Period, etc. So I can actually create the compass for myself. And this is where I stand. So I don't have one totem. I actually have 4 totems that have come together to make me what I am. And I need to understand what is on my left. That is my grand-maternal side. On my right, my grand-paternal side. At the back, my grand-paternal side. And in the front, my maternal. So you combine the 2 grannies and the 2 grandfathers. And that should be able to give you a compass as a child. So even if you wanted to do your traditional stuff, let me not teach you as young people. You don't just get there and say, hey, Himusbu, and you delve into your father's lineage and you think that you have done the job. No, you stop there and say, Bodziva, Botembe, Bombonambi, Boshumba, Bomkai. But then that gives you exactly who are you. And when you connect to the 4, then you are able to access your own DNA and knowledge of where you are coming from. And I think if we can work from there, we'll be able to look at each other differently. I can never walk into a room and I don't find a relative if I wanted to become more serious. And you just, what's your totem? What's your totem? Oh, my mother's grandmother, my cousin, my uncle's wife is from your tribe, and we just find there's a beautiful tapestry of the African continent. Hence, when I'm saying what we are calling countries right now are villages, we need to know that Africa functioned as a village. Embryo, embroidery, where the African knitted gene connects us as one people.